Take Command Podcast, Logan Paulson there, Craig Hoffman here. And don't forget, Logan, I don't know if yours has arrived at the house yet, but we have our Take Command merch available now at the Breaking Tea, or at the 106.7 The Fan Store at Breaking Tea. Ta-da!
Oh, that looks nice, man. Looks good.
Yeah. So you got this T-shirt that I'm holding up for those that are watching on YouTube. You also have the hoodies, so you can check that out. And again, I think we're still taking surveys in at hoffmanshow.com/survey. Get a nice little discount on the merch, and we love to hear your feedback on the show. All right, last but not least on this Take Command mailbag, Kliff Kingsbury is going to be someone that gets invited to interview for head coaching positions. That is for sure. Whether he's interested, all that kind of stuff, TBD. Whether he's actually offered a job, obviously TBD. But how we'll ask it this way, because this is the way it was asked in the question, and I'll see if I can find the question real quick and shout out the person who did. But how important is it to keep Kliff this year, this offseason for Dan Quinn and company moving forward?
That's a really good question, and I like how you worded that. Like, how important is it? Like, obviously, you want to keep your offensive coordinator on staff. Obviously, you want to keep a guy who understands quarterback development and has insulated Jaden Daniels and appears to have a good relationship with him. Obviously, all of those things are important. And so, is it the most important thing? I'm not sure. I think the other thing that I'd look at here too is you got to give Dan Quinn a lot of credit. You know, he's done a great job assembling the staff and getting guys together, getting them on the same page. And I think getting guys who have aspirations of bigger and better things. And one of the things, you know, like when you compare this or juxtapose this staff with the Ron Rivera staff is, I remember there were conversations we were having where it's like, well, who would be the OC if you were to move on from Scott Turner? And there weren't a lot of like definitive answers or very clear answers. And I look at here and you've got Anthony Lynn. He's been a coordinator. He's been a head coach. He's got, I'm sure, aspirations to move up the ladder again. Brian Johnson, the quarterback coach, again, was a coordinator, has got a lot of experience with some different offenses. I think that would be a nice kind of natural fit. Tavita, you've mentioned him before, kind of long term. So I think we've mentioned this before on the show, but I do think that having those guys in place make Kliff's departure sting a little bit less. If he does leave, obviously it's going to be a big deal, right? Because again, he's the architect, and we talked about that on our last show with the guy from The Athletic. His name escapes me. Dane.
Robert.
Robert Dane. Where'd that come from?
Dane's their draft guy. So you had an Athletic. Logan and I are both battling the brain fog, and it seems that some of the names and things, words are
tough to come by these days. So, you know, and I think he said like the architect of the offense. And when you look at the offense, his architecture has been outstanding, you know, like understanding what Jaden can handle, understanding kind of the play calls, getting the offense kind of clicking and flowing. Like if that were to leave, that would be tough to overcome. But obviously, like we just talked about, there are contingencies. So is it going to sting? Yes. Is it going to sting as bad as it potentially could? Probably not, because I do think there are people here that have that kind of aspiration, that talent, that motivation, that are gonna kind of offset some of that if he does leave.
Yeah, no, I think that's correct. And it was Peter who actually messaged you on Instagram who asked this. So thanks, Peter, for the question. You worded that very well, how important. And Peter also added, like, would you pay him extra money, a la like what Houston did with Bobby Slowick last year? Yeah,
I probably would.
And if you're Kliff's agent, you're basically committing malpractice if you don't just go like, hey, guys, if you just throw us a little bit of extra cash and like we'll be good. But here's the other thing with Kliff that I mention all the time. He's getting paid by the Arizona Cardinals already until like 2027. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. He signed an extension and got fired 1 year later. So he has head coach money coming in right now. He is going to be especially picky about his head coaching jobs because he's enjoying what he's doing. He's making head coach money from the Cardinals. And he, I think, understands seeing what is going on here, the importance, like how much he's learned from Dan, how much he's learned from Dan and Adam's relationship, how much he's probably learned about what Josh Harris is doing. Like he's learned how important the organization is. And if he's going to do the head coach thing again, there's no way he's going to do it. Like he's not going to, I'm trying to think of some of the the wackier ones. Like, he's not going to Dallas. No way he's going to Dallas.
Well, I mean, I've heard that. So again, this is where picking a location is interesting because he is from Texas, right? And so like, is that like his, and I don't know this is totally hypothetical, totally like.
Did he grow up in Texas and the Dallas Cowboys is head coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
That's his dream job. And despite all of the dysfunction, all the craziness there, would you still take that job? If that's your dream job, maybe you would. But to your point, he is going to be, I think, much more selective. And I've talked to a couple people who know him. And I think one of the things that it sounds like from these, again, like, the phone tag game from Kliff, where it's like, it sounds like he appreciates not having to be a head coach and just focus on the offense.
I don't know that he wants, like, I think he wants to be, he's competitive as hell. Like, he's going to want to be a head coach again. I don't know that he wants to be a head coach again right now. Like, I think part of being a competitor sometimes is being patient enough to know when it's time to go. And I don't think for him, it's going to be time to go this year. Maybe.
Yeah, have I ever told you my Kyle Shanahan story about that?
No.
I remember we were talking, and this was after the offense had been really good. I want to say it was like 2012. And Kyle's getting all these head coaching calls and opportunities. And I was like, hey, man, are you going to take that? Because again, like in my mind, it's like those opportunities don't come around every day. You got to jump on it while the iron's hot. And he goes, I'm not going to because I'm not ready right now. And I need a little bit more experience. And, obviously he goes to Cleveland afterwards and then goes down to Atlanta and really kind of takes like, I don't want to say like 5 years to kind of figure it out and kind of find that opportunity. It wasn't that long, 3 years, 4 years. But I do think there is something to that, like knowing when you're ready for that opportunity, when you've got kind of the infrastructure. Because again, that's the other thing about head coach. I think Dan's a great example of this is who's going to be on your staff? Who's going to be your OC? Who's going to kind of offset some of the difficulties of being a head coach? And I think one of the things about Kyle in San Francisco in 2017 when I was there is he was aware of all of those pitfalls, right? And the staff, the offensive staff specifically, was built and constructed to accommodate that. And I think like that's something that, again, like just because he's going to get an offer doesn't mean he A, wants it, B, he thinks he's ready for it, or C, it's the right fit for him. And I do think you bring up a great point with Dan Quinn. And like when you talk to Kyle Shanahan and when you talk to Sean McVay, it's not, oh, I got a head coaching job. It's like, who's the owner? Who's the GM? Where's the roster at? Who's the quarterback?
The Jets are a better example than the Cowboys even.
Yes.
Kliff's not going to the friggin' Jets.
Yeah.
Like they're a dumpster fire that just douses itself in kerosene all the time. Like he's not going to the Jets.
Right.
Don't do that, Kliff.
Right.
There's no amount
even like Chicago's interesting to me because again, like he has a relationship with Caleb Williams, right? And you say, oh, if you think Caleb Williams is the guy, maybe that's a good fit. But obviously the way that team has managed head coaches and GMs the last, 15 years, whatever that's been, it's not great. And so I think another one is Carolina. Like I know that job's not going to open up, but like those are really good examples where ownership's a little bit funky. And it's like, do I want to, again, how many shots do you get to be a head coach? Not many. So like it reminds me of basketball, like be selective with your shot selection, right? Be selective with that. Be selective with your head coach opportunities because you're going to get one, maybe two more. And if this goes bad, maybe no more. So for me, I would say like be selective with those opportunities. And I think he's going to be. And so that's the great thing about his current situation. Like you already alluded to, he's getting paid by Arizona. He's getting paid by the Commanders. Maybe you give him more money. He does not have to do anything drastic here. He can be very deliberate and very specific about the opportunity. And it sounds based on what you've said, and I feel the same way, that he's going to do that. He's going to be really deliberate and selective about the opportunity. And it might happen this year, but it also might not. I think he'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is Kliff has talked about in some of his post game or some of his media avails, like he's poured into the relationships more this year in a more meaningful and substantive way. Things in the past were a little more surface level, and he was afraid of like some of the conflict and whatever. And like now he's just like willing to have discussions, and like the relationships are much stronger here. And I do think that that's going to make it hard. Like he can be the guy that helps lead Jaden Daniels to an MVP or to Super Bowls or like. That's pretty big time. And so that opportunity is going to make it harder to walk away. Again, if he gets offered $12 million a year to go be the head coach somewhere, like, why wouldn't you go take that? It's a ton of money. It's the top of the profession, like all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying he's 100% not going to, but like if your life's pretty good, and like Kliff has also made a bunch of money. He made a bunch of money at Texas Tech. He made a bunch of money with Arizona, and the money's still coming in. Like I'm sure he's pretty well compensated now. Like how much more money do you need? Like once you have that level of money, like how much money do you actually need? And if you're happy, and that's a feeling you haven't had, at some point you just go be like, I value my happiness over an extra whatever $1 million. And that's like sounds crazy to most of us. Like I value my happiness a lot. I could probably take a little bit of short term. $1 million. I would probably take a million. Unhappy, right? Yeah. Like for a short term, like we could figure it. Look, Woody Johnson, I hate your football team. If you want me to coach the Jets for an NFL head coaching salary, I'll figure it out. I'll make it work until you fire me. I'll take your money. Go ahead. I'll be miserable.
Dude, how wild would that be? How absolutely insane would that be if you got a call? Like, you don't know him. You don't know anybody. You're not even interviewing. He just called you and was like, hey, man, love the pod. Let's get you out here. Let's get you out here for an interview.
Sure. You want to pay me $10 million a year? I'll be the head coach of the New York Jets. I'll do the stupid interviews with the New York media who just wants to bite my head off, and especially want to bite my head off because I'm actually one of them.
Could you imagine? Oh my God, I love this. I love the visual.
Sounds like a movie script. Actually, how do we get this in production? Yeah, owner likes podcasts. It's a little too on the nose for 2024. Anyway, that's our last mailbag of 2024 because we got games the rest of the year. So we'll be back to preview the Saints later on in the week. That'll be in your feeds on Thursday morning. And then obviously we will be back post-game on Sunday. TBD on the time on that and who our guest co-host will be because Logan will be on the road. But we'll try to have that answer for you later in the week. So stay tuned to the social medias, etc. And we will make sure we get all of that information to you so you can join us live. But by Sunday night, it'll be in your podcast feed anyway, so you can always check it out there. All right. Thanks for all your questions. Really appreciate it. For Logan, I'm Craig. And we'll see you next time on Take Command. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command, which has a brand new home.
That's right. You can watch on YouTube at the Team 980.
You can also listen to full episodes in the free Odyssey app, which is now enabled with Apple CarPlay. So we'll just, follow you around.